I'm joined here by MK Dons head coach Liam Manning, who has just won Manager of the Month in League One for September. It's your second month managing in English football, senior English football, of course, and you've already won Manager of the Month. It's easy, this, isn't it? How are you getting on with it?
Definitely not that. I can guarantee you it's not easy. There's lots of sleepless nights. No, I think it's a huge honour, a huge privilege, obviously, to win it. And I think for me, what's really important is it's not me, it's the players, it's the staff, it's everybody that plays a huge part at the club to allow the players to step on the pitch and perform like they did in September. So obviously, extremely privileged to have won it, but I think it's really important. It's not down to one person. It's a collective that allows us to deliver what happened in September.
I mean, obviously, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, shall we say, because you didn't have much of a pre-season to prepare. How was it arriving when you did and having to sort of get straight into it?
Probably a good and a bad thing. I think we obviously didn't have any pre-season. We joined after Bolton, so the season had already started. I remember landing. I got back from Belgium on a Thursday evening and watched training. Ray Lewington and Skip Dean Lewington took training, and we then jumped in and took the game on Saturday. So it was a real quick one. 3 games in 8 days. We played Sunderland, we played Charlton and Ipswich. So it was not much time to think about it, which probably is, like I say, the good thing. It was just a straight into it. Get into it, and it was a great learning experience. And what makes it a lot easier is the group we've got. A terrific group of players that just basically got on with it, which is makes our life a lot easier.
We'll come back to MK Dons, but I just want to do a bit more of a dive into your career so far. We're going to go full biopic. I want to go back to the start because you're only 36 years old, but you've had a remarkable journey so far. You started off, obviously, you were a youth team player at Norwich and then Ipswich. You were released by Ipswich in 2005. You had a stint playing in Iceland, I believe. And then what was then you left and joined coaching? What happened there exactly? Can you tell me?
Yeah, I also need to point out I'm 35. I think some of the dates on my birthday are wrong.
Are you 35?
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
No, I get it. There's some dates. I've got about 4 birthdays, I think, online. So, yeah. It came through. I think I was really fortunate. I think with my, I signed at the academy at Ipswich at 13. It was as a club, Ipswich at the time was, well renowned for producing some really high level players and playing a certain way. And I have to give a huge amount of credit to some of the people that coached me there when I was a young kid, because I genuinely feel they instilled some of the way I work now and some of the values I have now into me as a person that, shaped some of the work I do now. So I was really fortunate to come through there, and I think again because of my attitude, my characteristics, is ultimately why they then invited me back coaching after my short stint in Iceland. That was a tough one. It was almost getting my head around the fact I was never going to be a high level player. It was a really difficult decision to come to. I think a lot of young players now in the game come through it, and I feel fortunate to have spent time in an academy, and it ultimately led me down another career path in the game. But coming to terms with the fact that I'm not going to have a high level career, and it was, do I want to chase a year contract on small amounts of money, or do I want to actually go and forge a career in the game in a different area? And that's why I was fortunate Ipswich gave me that opportunity to start my coaching career.
And then you moved on to West Ham. You caught the eye of them when in 2015, I believe. I'm terrified of my dates now after getting your age wrong. I don't know what information I've been reading, but I'll just go with what I've got here. You were helping run their academy, and you're also managing the under-23 side, I believe, helping produce players such as Grady Diangana and Declan Rice. What was that like? What was the differences between there and Ipswich in terms of the job you were doing?
Yeah, I think, again, it was quite an uncommon move. I think I was kind of lead YDP, so 12 to 16s lead at Ipswich, and then jumped to be assistant academy director, and as you said, 23s at West Ham, which doesn't follow like a conventional sort of coaching pathway for academy coaches. So again, really, really fortunate. I think it was 2 things: fortunate, but I also put a lot of hours in. Do you know what I mean? I think there's no real secret to success. There is a huge amount of hard work and highs, lows, learnings from that. And then, I remember joining West Ham, and sort of a week, 2 weeks in, the manager hadn't been appointed. And I remember taking a team with, it was the Europa League group, taking a session with that group. So I'd gone from taking under 16s at Ipswich to having, a couple of guys, I remember in the session, Sacco and James Tompkins and people like that. And I'll be totally honest, I was a little bit nervous taking it. And one of them were, quite nervy about doing it. But again, I think that feeling in coaching is great in terms of being outside your comfort zone and challenging yourself and testing yourself. So it was I'd say it was a really good decision. I'm really fortunate Terry Wesley that took me there and gave me that opportunity. I learned a lot from him in terms of individual development, intensity, ways of working, values, behaviours as well, similar to the guys I had at Ipswich. So it was a terrific experience. Again, culturally working with a different type of player, from sort of sleepy Suffolk, some Ipswich nice to, we had a extremely diverse academy at West Ham where players from all sort of different nationalities and backgrounds, and learned a huge amount in terms of how to handle different people, and then just the scale and the profile of the club. West Ham's a huge club. I didn't really realise how big it was until I joined. So it was again another really good learning experience in my journey.
How much pride did you feel when you saw someone like Declan Rice make the step up into the first team? And obviously he's gone on to be a star for the club, a star for England as well. How proud were you watching him play in, say, the Euros this summer?
I have to say, I think that's probably the biggest buzz you get out of being an academy coach. It certainly was for me anyway. That all the energy you put in, all the conversations, all the one-to-ones, all the work you've done on the pitch. It was the same feeling at Ipswich. I think great. Dec's a terrific player, terrific person first and foremost. That delighted he's gone on to have the career he has. I think it's every player that goes on to make a debut, and I also think I feel a lot in terms of there's quite a few people that haven't made it that have actually gone on to be a success in other industries. Worked with a guy called Alex Pike who was at West Ham who didn't quite get to the level and basically decided to go and be an underwriter in the city. And again, I find that just as rewarding that actually, when we talk around working and developing players, I think first and foremost is developing people that have the right traits and behaviours that allow them to be a success whatever they do. And I think that for me, there's a bigger, it should be a big emphasis on, most academies, is that develop the person first, develop the behaviours they need to be successful, and then we'll actually develop you as a footballer on top of that.
After that, you moved on to New York City FC, which is a remarkable step. So you went from one of the top academies in the country to this job, obviously the Big Apple. It's a very big move. I'd imagine it was the first time you lived in America as well. What was that like? How did that decision come about for you?
Yeah, again, a real difficult decision at the time. I felt like we had a 4-year period at West Ham, and there's a real tight knit group of staff that I thought had a real good impact on quite a few of the guys there, and it'd come to a phase where someone worked really closely with Dave Hunt had left to go into a different field. Terry was the academy director and the head of operations. We're moving on to go and work in the J League, and I'd done the role for 4 years. And I'd had a chat with Terry prior to leaving around whether to step up and kind of head up the football side of it and bring in a head of operations. And at the same time, out of kind of nowhere, I had a guy called Stuart King had called me around the potential opportunity in America at New York and the City Football Group, obviously, to basically go and build on their academy. It was only 4 years old, the academy. So I met up with Claudio Reyna, former player. So I met up with him a few times, flew out to New York, had a look at it. And again, it was a big part. It was a decision from a development point of view, both sort of life and professionally. I think in terms of going to, a city abroad with, I think, we had 13 nationalities, I think, on the staff and 42 nationalities within the academy.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at West Ham, and West Ham predominantly English staff, to be totally honest. So again, going out to New York in a leadership position, how do I connect? How do I communicate? How do I get people to buy into kind of what my philosophy, what my way of working is? When you've got people with such diverse backgrounds was a big part of, for me in terms of how, what can I learn from that? What can I extract? What's going to help me be a better coach, long term? So yeah, it was interesting. It was a terrific club, some terrific people there. Thoroughly enjoyed my time. I thought we made some good gains while we were there. But yeah, nothing but good experiences out there.
Right, we've arrived back nearly in the present day now. We've got all the way to, we're back at MK Dons. The move happened in August. It was all very sudden. Was it just an opportunity you couldn't turn down? How did it come about exactly?
Again, it was a call with CFG, with City Football Group, in terms of saying that Liam and MK wanted to speak with me. Liam Sweetin and MK Dons wanted to have a conversation with me about things, and then ask if I'd be interested in interviewing. It was a really difficult one, to be totally honest. For initially, I think you so many things that fly through your head in terms of, again, another international move, so the third in 3 years, the security that kind of I had at CFG, and that one. And I look at my journey now. What I've not done is follow a conventional, comfortable route. I want to stretch myself. I want to challenge myself. I want a version that I can be. And then when I spoke with Liam Sween, and I spoke with the chairman, and kind of obviously did a bit of research and knew about the club and the playing squad and where it was at, the style of football, how things were done. obviously knew the facility because I've been here before. It was one of them when I looked at it in terms of next steps, and being able to come back into the UK and in such a competitive league was just too good an opportunity, and one that excited me too much to say no to.
How much have you enjoyed it in League One so far?
Loved every minute, to be totally honest. I love the intensity. I love game days. It's a real challenge. I think, especially for the staff, just being able to switch off is probably the biggest issue I have in terms of, when you're looking at a minimum 51 game season, that's a lot of, opposition work. It's a lot of post-match reviews. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of how do you coach players when you don't necessarily have loads of time on the grass, being able to deliver sessions, especially like us. We didn't have 6 weeks of pre-season to go, look, this is what it looks like for us. So we had to kind of learn on the fly a little bit in terms of what the guys had been asked to do last year, and what tweaks and changes we wanted to make. So that, again, I think the level of the league, I think, when you see the size of some of the clubs, the fan bases of some, Ipswich 20,000 at a home game in League One, but that doesn't happen in any other third division in the world, I don't think. So it speaks volumes again, I think, about the game in England.
One player who's really stood out so far is Scott Twine, who obviously was signed in the summer before you arrived. Got a hat-trick against Fleetwood not too long ago. How impressed have you been by him so far?
Yeah, no, first and foremost, as a person, I think he's a terrific character. He's really liked amongst the group, which again, I think, speaks volumes about him as a person. He's driven, he's hungry. The goals when you see his free kicks, they're not coincidence. He studied that. He spent a large amount of time practicing it. So again, huge credit goes to him for that, but just loves football as well. I think that's the other thing. I think he's so emotionally invested in the game and his career that, he's not interested in all the extras that come along with it. He turns up to train every day with a smile on his face, ready to go. Which, again, I think if you're coming in, you're looking forward to training, you're enjoying yourself, I think you play a lot better. And again, he shows that, and I think that transfers onto the pitch when you see him play in a match day.
I mean, obviously, it's been a fantastic start. It was your first full month of temporary one manager a month. It's clearly been a fantastic start. The league is relentless. You've had a great start. There, as you mentioned before, Ipswich, there are so many big clubs in this league this season. It's probably one of the craziest ever League One seasons in terms of some of the teams that are there. What are the expectations? Can you sort of muscle in? Can you keep this form and this run going?
I think time will tell on that front. I think for me, we kind of in-house, we know where we're going to get to at the end of the season. But again, I think that the biggest thing for me is just concentrating on the present. I think that's what we can control. We can't control what's happening in January, February, March. We don't know what players are going to be available, where the squad looks. So why invest a load of time looking that far ahead? So for me, it's concentrate on the now. Work as hard as we can in the present to make sure that we're developing the team, we're developing the players. We're improving everything. Whether we win, lose, or draw, is following the same process to make sure that we basically become the best versions of ourselves. And I think that's what we're striving to do every day here.
Liam, it's been brilliant chatting to you, mate. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Best of luck for the rest of the season.
I appreciate it, Simeon. Thank you.